Hello, Mr. Cove here, and today I have a Skull and Bones video where we're going to be talking about poison in PvP. So poison was added with this last season here. We have poison weapons. We have the Sloop of War that specializes in toxic attacks, and we also have an armor that I think is meant to be a hard counter for it, but I don't think it actually is. And we're gonna just be discussing how that's going in PvP so far. Based on what I've seen for the last few days, I've been trying to check it out and uh, see how powerful it is, see what it's how it's effective, and then how to counter it as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. This will not be like a build guide or anything. This is more of just telling you guys how things work, so you can make your own builds and stuff, and you don't need a guide. Also, there's just enough good content creators out there that do like making build guides, so that's just not something that needs to be added to YouTube at this point, in my opinion. And it's not my cup of tea, anyways. I like making my own builds. I don't like looking at build guides, so my content's more geared towards other people that want to do the same there. Not that looking at a build guide is bad or anything. You can be a very good player, understand the game very well, and still want to try out other people's builds that they came up with. Nothing wrong with that. Just again, not the for the most part, not going to be the kind of content I'm going to come out with. So just be aware of that. This is not a build guide, but we will get into how this is all working and how I think it's going so far. So the first thing I kind of looked at was taking a tank into PvP and going against poison to see how effective it was against tanks. It's easier to judge, getting hit as opposed to attacking with these weapons because you don't know what the other people are doing. Are they even trying to brace? Could they? How much damage do they usually take? What is their equipment? It's easier to test these things with being attacked yourself than the other way around. So that's the first thing I did. Took the frigate in, and kind of played enough games against poison to see how that would look with just a normal setup that I would have used last season, not caring about poison at all. Just, whatever poison resistance was added on from the armors, being added in this season, I just went in with that and saw how that worked out. So poison does a lot of damage. Those weapons are very effective. And as a tank, if you're being attacked by poison, especially a sloop, you're not going to be able to brace at all. So that's the way it works off the bat if you're not spec'd into it. And then there are a couple specific armor options for you to try if you're seeing the meta is a bunch of poison attacks and you want to go in there and try to hard counter it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have for options there. And I did try both of these as well. So first we have the Wailing Ward here. Now what this does, go down to the little perk here, reduces damage and crew stamina depletion from toxic attacks by 50%. And then it has a base of 28% poison resistance on the armor itself. You see I've spec'd it to just have more armor. I'm guessing that would also reduce all of the poison damage I'm taking. So that's how I have this spec'd. But what I found is that the crew stamina depletion, reduction was completely worthless. If someone is attacking you with poison attacks, even with this reduction, you have no stamina and you can't brace at all. So it still is a hard counter to you being a tank if you're trying to brace or do anything like that. Of course, the 50% reduced damage helps a lot. The problem is that if you're going in PvP, and these aren't one-on-one situations, it would be pretty effective if you're doing like a helm thing and you're just trying to do like a manufactory against one other person who's doing poison or something, this would be pretty effective because their damage, if they're fully spec'd in the poison, just isn't going to be doing as much to you, even if you can't brace. The problem in PvP, though, is that you're able to get focus attacks. So even if one of the people have poison, which is actually the best way to do it, you can't brace, and then everyone else can, hit you with whatever their damage is. So if you're spec to go against this toxic damage and reducing by 50%, that's great. But you're still not tanking the way you normally would because you can't brace at all. And so the other two people are able to, focus fire you, and there's no worry about you being able to brace against it. So to me, even with this armor that, seems to be meant to be, where you're still able to brace, completely ineffective. It doesn't do that. Again, definitely reduces the damage, so that's good. But if you're going up against other damage too, the fact that you can't brace is still a big problem for you as a tank. This is the other armor that's kind of an option here. I didn't do much with this, but this is meant a little bit different. We'll go down to the perk here. Where you are bracing, and the way poison works is that it's able to go through bracing. Again, it's definitely an anti-tank weapon. So this is meant for you to brace before you're hit by the poison, and so you're going to reduce the effects of that by being able to brace before it. It doesn't have the effect of reducing toxic attacks, though. So you'll still be taking more damage if you're not braced against it. But that's kind of another way of doing it. If you can time these well before the toxic attacks hit you, the way you'd want to with bracing, then this can be more effective as far as not reducing your stamina because the poison attacks aren't getting through. It also has a higher base poison resistance, so it still is reducing the damage quite a bit. But again, it's not getting that 50% less like the other armor is. So this would be better if you're just facing kind of the setup that I just described, where you have one opponent with poison, the other two don't. They're just trying to focus fire you, and the poison is meant to knock off your brace. This is better against that than the other armor. However, if you're going up against like 3 people with toxic damage, then you're going to have your brace knocked out anyways, your stamina, therefore you can't brace. And then the other armor would be better because it's reducing it, the damage you're taking by 50%. So those are kind of the two options to try to counter it. I wouldn't call these hard counters. Personally, I'd prefer if the stamina protection worked better on both of these. If its whole purpose is to kind of still allow you to tank and brace, it should be able to do that. And neither of these really are very effective against, still having stamina in order to do that. If someone's attacking you with toxic attacks, you're going to be out of stamina either right away or very quickly, even if you're bracing well with this second armor, which is more effective than the other one, but still inadequate to, still operate as a tank where you want to be bracing and stuff. Now, I do think this first armor is effective for non-tanks because you're just reducing the damage, right? So if, that secondary element of not really protecting you from the stamina depletion, the high damage reduction from the toxic attacks can be, very good. So if you're playing in PvP, you're seeing a lot of toxic attacks, and you're playing a non-tank and, you're not going to be able to brace that much anyways, then this is the armor that I would go with, and it's going to reduce your damage greatly then, and you're not going to be able to brace anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. You're not a tank. And then, this is probably going to be the most helpful countering that. And this, again, I wouldn't call it a hard counter, but if you're going against 3 toxic ships, then, reducing their damage by 50% is substantial, of course. It's just, the normal way to combat being focus fired would be bracing, and, with toxic attacks, it really just eliminates that completely. So those are the armors that are basically designed to counter it and you know, moderately effective, depending on the situation. And one more thing I think I'm going to be trying in PvP that I think is going to be very effective is trying the poison weapons on the Brigantine. The Brigantine's biggest problem in PvP is that a ramming attack is the most, it's the easiest thing in the game to brace against, right? So if you're able to knock out someone's ability to brace, you're actually able to do something in PvP at that point. And, the Brigantine does enough damage with its charges that it could target non-tanks with that, but it's really, really bad against, tanks, since they can just brace through that damage and always see you coming. And it's not like you're continually ramming them every couple seconds, where you can break through their ability to brace against it, right? So that really limited the Brigantine before. So I am anxious to kind of try that out and see if that's, something that makes the Brigantine much more effective in PvP. I think that'll be a fun thing to try. So if that ends up being the way I think it is, maybe I'll have a video on that next week, just kind of showing, how fun poison on the Brigantine is. So we'll try that out as well. Okay, and then for me, this is probably the weapon I've been seeing most in PvP over the last few days, and that is the Blightbringer here that shoots toxic torpedoes. So this is what I'm seeing, most used weapon in PvP right now. Again, not for world PvP, but for Death Tides. So, maybe it's the nature of this weapon that it's, has the. We'll kind of go down and look at what this does here. But you see it kind of has a stacking effect and, leaves clouds and stuff. So the poison element of knocking out the stamina is even more effective with this weapon. And then if you're playing a tank, it's harder to avoid torpedoes and stuff too. So, again, really effective against tanks, and maybe it's just the fact that this is the most used weapon that it kind of seems like the armor's ability to counter the stamina depletion just doesn't work, because these are designed to just have clouds around you once they hit and stuff. So maybe that's just too much. And if it was a different poison weapon, like say this thing here, we were just taking some shots here. Maybe this wouldn't deplete it enough where, these armors seem ineffective. Maybe it's just a combination of the most common PvP weapon is, meant to stack this poison effect on larger, slower targets. And, it's just too much for those armors to handle as far as still being able to brace. So people that are interested in PvP, that's what I'm seeing right now. It's kind of broken if you're trying to play a tank. Again, one of these armors is a good choice. If you're seeing whole teams with toxic, then I would go with Wailing Ward. If you're just seeing more of a focus fire, one person trying to knock out your shields, then this is the better option if you're good about bracing before getting hit. And since, again, the torpedoes are the most common weapon I'm seeing, that's fairly easy to brace against and time that. So that's what I would go with that. If you're looking to use it, then definitely go with the torpedoes. Those are going to be able to knock out the enemy's shields very effectively. So that's what I would go with. And if you just don't like this current meta, but you still want to play Death Tides, then I would go with the presets. Those are much more fair. But again, then you can't bring your own ship that you made your own build with into that. So not quite as fun for me. But if you really like PvP and want it to be a little more balanced, that is the better way to do it right now. I think this should be tweaked, probably next season. It's not exactly a rock, paper, scissors situation, but it's too strong of a counter to tanks right now. If it was something that knocked out shields, but also just, did like lower damage, so you're having to pay a price for using that, then that would be fine. But you know, it's very effective at just killing anything. So why not use it right now, right? So, and I get it's the new thing. And our last season had a frigate, which is a very strong tank. So it makes sense that you kind of, you know, mix up the meta with having a strong anti-tank weapon that can combat that, right? Makes sense. It's just, it's a little bit too of a hard of a counter, in my opinion, right now. So, all right, well, that's about it for this video. I just kind of wanted to go over this for people that maybe were wanting to check out the PvP, curious how, you know, this was working so far in the season. And that is what I've seen so far. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.